Christine Bieselin Clark, Emmy nominee for your costumes on Star Trek Picard. Season 2 takes place in an alternate timeline. So when did you find that out? Because I know you guys were working pre-lockdown as well. And how did that affect your approach to season 2?
Yes, we did know very, very early on that we were going into an alt timeline. So I did have time to prepare and think about that. We started our prep period before we shut down. So we were in an early part of prep where we were conceptualizing, with the other department heads and our producers and showrunners and director. Then we shut down. We all went to work from home for a bit. So we did this all day, every day, just a bunch of Zooming. But then we officially just everyone reached a place where we thought, we don't know how long this is going to be. So everybody just take a break, which for me just becomes time to think more, so I had a lot of time to really construct my thought process of the visuals and the design, particularly for the alt timeline.
Mm-hmm. And what did you want that to be? And I guess how much did that change at all from what you initially had, like pre-lockdown?
Well, it's interesting. Season 1 and season 2 are like completely different shows visually. Right. In season 1, we really had a very warm, lovely approach to Chateau Picard and Picard himself. And in this season, we began with the optimism of Starfleet, which I think is so true to the franchise and all of our characters from season 1. But we are at, Starfleet Academy in this beautiful space with all of the hopefulness of what Starfleet is, which is, we're about to go explore, to be looking for other life forms, other sentient life. Peaceful exploration is what Starfleet is. So this is the beauty of episode 1. And then we flip that with a snap of the fingers from Q. And what's the antithesis of that? So that for me as a designer is, what can I contribute visually with the knowledge and understanding of what Starfleet is and the characters we're bringing into this alternate timeline. But how different can that be? And how can we tell a very different story just immediately with the look and the colors and the silhouettes of things into a much darker place? If Starfleet is the peaceful exploration, the Confederation was about the eradication of all life forms that were non-human. So it's a very different thing.
It's pretty dark, and they have to save humanity. So
yes,
but you did. There's a lot more blacks and grays.
Yeah, we kind of just extracted, all of the light and energy and positivity and aspiration of the world that we were in episode 1 just got sucked right out. So we really went, our signature term that we were all using was this high fascist style. If our socio-political commentary on the world is about alien and alien eradication, there really has to be a reverence and an understanding for how to portray that in a respectful way. So color just kind of went away. We were in grays and blacks, and it's very, very different from other Trek worlds. So I think it's immediate for the audience and the viewing team to say, we're not in Starfleet anymore.
Especially when you compare, because because in episode 2 is when they go, and that's also your submission. But yeah, you get to see the contrast immediately. And one of my favorite looks is 7 of 9, because she's the president in the fall timeline. The black gray suit, and it kind of looks like she's like wearing a shirt, like there's a tie, but it's not. It's just part of the jacket. So what went into that look?
Well, interestingly for us, we returned to 7 this season in a very traditional sense. She's the Fenris Rangers, and we come with that style line from season 1. She's in go mode from the get-go. When we go into Wake Up World, she is unassimilated. So 7 is not 7 of 9. She is Annika Hansen, president of the Confederation. And we have this wonderful, tell all where she wakes up, and we reveal that there's no Borg tech, and it really does set the tone for a very different perception of a beloved character. So I think the intention was to, make her presidential, officious. She is like-minded to all these people who are eradicating alien life forms. So we wanted structure and style line and to have that very officious fascist kind of feeling. So there's a militarized style to her while it's still extremely fashion forward. You know, we gave her that high collar line and that beautiful shoulder. But every detail of that was so carefully thought through, and I'm so glad it's well received. You know, we tone on tone dyed each of the grays to these perfect colors. You know, textile artists, soup to nuts. The tailoring from Sharon McGonigal and her team. I mean, it is a stunning outfit. And I'll tell you a little story about even the belt is like, you know, she wears this beautiful jacket. It's perfectly tailored to her. She comes out so grandly. And I knew, I have to have a belt. You have to have something to finish this. And it was one of those moments where you just have dead space as a designer and it kills you. And one day I just woke up from that like dream state of ding. Oh, and I scratched this little tiny pencil drawing, and I went to work and I met with Sharon McGonigal, our cutter fitter, and Dorothy Gulak-Arison, our specialty costumer. And I was like, here, I have this little scratch and this is what I want this belt to be. So all of the lines just perfectly kind of come into the middle of her body. And it's the pièce de résistance. I think it's the thing that makes that look.
Yeah, it's usually, sometimes it's usually like the little things, is maybe you don't even notice it.
Yeah, very much.
Well, we have a lot of returning or old characters from like Next Generation this season with Borg Queen.
Legacy characters.
Annie Wershing is the Borg Queen. Obviously, Whoopi Goldberg back as Guinan, and obviously John Delancey as Q. So what was your process in updating their looks, so to speak?
I think, you know, we always approach things from story and character as designers, but here you have this body of work that precedes what you are jumping into, and years have gone by. So there's context and there's a launching pad and a character that precedes you. However, we're taking that new character into a completely different timeline, and, you know, sometimes 30 years later. So there's always that archaeological expedition where we start, like, you know, we just turn into library geeks where we go and just research all the imagery and the thought processes of the designers that were designing those characters when they were on TNG and at First Contact. And that becomes sort of your frame and your base. But then we take them where we want them to go, and what has changed for that character and how does that represent visually, but also what's the connectivity. You know, for instance, with Guinan, there's a lot of reverence to her color palette from TNG, and of course the hat, to die for. Whoopi's a dream come true. She was down with the hat.
You gotta have the hat, like it's not
gotta have the hat. And then the Borg Queen, I mean, this was a major creature for us. So there's a tremendous amount of overlap and collaboration with the prosthetic designers, Neville Page, and, you know, even your prop master, your actress. So you have this baseline of where you're coming from with the Borg Queen, and we stayed true to, again, color becomes really a through line. So those coppers and browns and muddy tones that we used even in season 1 for Borg are all still there. But then we used a term called weaponized femininity for that character. So we just took there's a lot of Thierry Mugler inspiration in that look. There's a lot of really great like 80s and 90s designers, but then we creatured it up and it's just, you know, from head to toe, the lines of the creature look into that costume. It's, I think, a wonderful success.
Yeah, for sure. Lastly, last time we talked about Picard's like retired vineyard look, which I love because he has a lot of textiles and fabrics. And in the premiere, he has this like lovely cable knit sweater. I love all that. So how much fun is it to pick those, I guess, like human clothes?
It's just a wonderful opportunity to show a side to a character that we saw in uniform for years. You know, again, that thought process, and it's been mentioned here today, of who is this character, where do these clothes come from, and you know, I'm in a world where you can press a button and a replicator spits out whatever you want. So but I think Picard has such a reverence for the analog. You know, it's still reading paper books in that, even in 2400. And I think we specifically chose knitwear and the art of knitting as a historical jumping off point for something that he would have a lot of respect and reverence for in his choices of making for his attire. So we kept that through line, and we did some 3D knitting this season. And so there's a beautiful sweater that he wears again with his field jacket, but you see it in the bookends of the season. So we carried that with us because I think it's very much a part of Picard.
Yeah, it's such a different look, but it still fits him. Like,
yes. Yeah, we still gave him a shoulder. He still looks great in it, but it's just a softer, more reverent, the history buff of Jean-Luc.
Yes. Well, Christine, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time. See you back in a little bit.
Likewise.
Thank you.